So, we are going to talk today about how to think product-wise while designing a board game. And as I'm also not only a designer, but a salesperson for the board games, I have some experience that helped me develop a way of thinking about the games that can also help other designers, especially those who are not from the industry. So, what is the input to this today's lecture? Is that designers are struggling to find a publisher to publish their at least first game. What is more, on the market there are games that are very good and very unpopular, and at the same time we have games which are not so polished and mechanically they leave a lot of space to improve, and they are very, very popular. And I was searching what was the reason of that and how the games actually find their space on the market. Not only by being a good game, but also by being a good product. And my output of that is an approach that I would like to share with you today. And of course you can agree or disagree with that approach, because we all have different ideas. And as we are here, probably most of us has a different idea how to make a game, how to make a good game, how to make that game be launched on the market. And none of those is probably a wrong way. We just are who we are, but it is a good opportunity to share one of these ideas with you and maybe have a discussion after all, where we at. And is it about creating a better games? No, it is not what this lecture is going to be about. It will be about creating a better products, which can apparently help you in creating a better game, but only for a target group that you chose at the beginning. Which means that probably you won't be a much better board game designer after all. You will be just a person who helps yourself to achieve having a games on the market. And we will focus on the perspective where designers are freelancers who are selling the game to the publishers. So we are not discussing the crowdfunding part of the industry, and we are also not discussing the situation when we have a studio inside of the company. Okay, first thing to understand. We need some assumptions to make a basement for the theory. So, as a board game and a product, we can compare it to square and rectangle. And the rule says that every rectangle
is a square.
In the opposite way. Every square can be a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. And the same appears in this case. So let's assume that all board games are products, but not every product can be a board game. And this is what we want to have at the beginning. And how it works. What I believe that designers usually think when designing a game, that they are the author and they make a game for a player. And is it a true approach? Is it what we actually do as a designers? It's missing the point, because actually we have in the middle this nasty, horrible publisher who always drop our ideas, downsize our pretty perfect approach to game design, and ask difficult questions like, for who is this game? What is this game trying to tell? What is the price of the game? How do you perceive it? And then the poor little designer comes back home, put the game into his shelf, and cry alone because of the nasty publishers. But you actually gave them a game, and the publisher must make a product to reach the customers, not the players. That's a difference we'll talk about in a moment. But what is the way I would like to introduce to you is to change... Oh shit, man. We got back. Is to change the game into a product, and then the publisher is open-handed to talk to us, because we just brought something that he needs. Because we brought something that he is going to sell to the customers. And if we prepared ourselves enough to talk about the product, then we actually made enough of the research for the publisher. Imagine a situation: you get a call, and here, hello man, I can't talk right now. I'm in the middle of a very important business meeting with popular and famous people. And you say, but you are the one who calling. And you hear the phone is dropping. And it is a similar situation. You come to the publisher, but you are the one who wants to publish a game. Why should the publisher think of you as a good opportunity? You actually want him to take a lot of effort to to share his profit with you. Instead of localizing at a very cheap way a game from outside the market, which is already tested, which is already like checked how the market perceive it, which is already selling well in some other places. You already have a niche for it. You already know that people want to buy it. And now comparing it to being a designer, like you're starting from a losing position. So you have to prepare yourself for that and make a good product to convince the publisher that it is a good thing for them. And what is the difference between the players and the customers from our perspective? First of all, customers don't play your games, or at least not yet. And that's the thing you must understand to get to the next point, that you must convince them to get your game without playing, mostly. We're not mentioning the conventions, etc. at the moment, but if you understand how to convince them to get your game, then you'll be able to make them your players. So before you even think how you will actually face the difficulties that the player may have about your game, you must understand what the difficulties they will meet before they buy your game, what actually can grab their attention to the product. So first, understand what a product is. And there is a lot of definitions, of course, but I make a homework for you, and we have it synthetic in 5 points that are important for this lecture. So what should we know about the product? It is, first of all, intended for sale. Each of the products must meet a need that is on the market already. It will also need to stand against all the requirements and demands that people have from that product. It will also need to bring any benefit to those who are going to buy it. And at least it is a basic marketing instrument, which may help you a little bit of understanding how publishers work with that. And today we will forge some special, let's say, artifact based on these 5 stars. So we'll be collecting one by one, explaining which of these is important. So at the end you will get to know what we managed to do. And first one, about meeting the specific needs that are on the market. So when I was giving a lecture here 3 years ago, at that time I believed that creating an experience, a feeling that I want players to feel, is the way of designing games. So when I have a feeling that I wanted to provide to the people, then I decided, okay, that's an experience which will give the feeling I'm searching for. And through years it changed a little bit. Now I'm asking myself what players want to feel while playing this particular kind of games that I'm working on right now. And it brings me to the point where I can create a better product rather than a better game. And it is also helpful to later on justify the existence of the game on the market. And the questions I usually ask myself is, when do they play it? Why actually players take this kind of game onto the table? And what are they searching for? Because it's not necessarily an emotion even, or an experience they might search for, like a challenge during the game, or just being with friends. So it depends what kind of game you're creating. And this is something that could be resolved with design thinking. I assume most of you heard about it, and probably at least half of you read about it or use already the design thinking method of working. But it is an approach that focuses on the need and understanding the needs of the customer, of people who will be the final users of your product. And to change the colors a little bit, because I was too tired of the purple while preparing the presentation, I needed a break. So we have like a process of designing an actual product. And there are 5 steps characteristic for design thinking. Of course, each theory has its own branches, but this is the simplest one in my opinion. And what we usually do as board game designers, we start in here, from idealization. We wake up or sit on the toilet, decide that, oh, that's a moment, and the water drops, and here is barrage. And then we just made a huge strategical game based on a thought that came in a moment. And then we start prototyping, thinking how to make the game out of it, testing, and we make a loop. But we usually skipping the first point, which is emphasization. And as a designers, we should emphasize with our final customers, and in this case with publishers also. So we should understand what are we giving by the game, what are we going to satisfy by providing this product to the market, what are people going to search in this game, etc., etc. And we should also find a niche on the market, decide what is going to be a way of defining this product, how is it going to be launched, is it going to be a retail product or rather a crowdfunding one, and we have all of these answers, then we can start defining. So we made the research, we get some numbers, we get some knowledge, and we are now ready to make some assumptions about the product that we are going to create. And after defining the idealization as a step is much easier, and first of all, it allows us to create actually a product, not just a game. We'll have an idea why this game can convince publisher to take it onto its board. So we have 5 steps in here, and defining is the one that is getting back to. So we are usually skipping the first step, which is the whole idea of design thinking. And I believe as board game designers, we should actually use design thinking method because it's one of the origins of approaches that are popular right now and are actually being more and more used by big companies also, not only in our industry but outside too. So we have the first one. Next, let's take a look at subject to a customer and user requirements. So each of the products that we create, it has some requirements. Imagine yourself, you get a big box of a game, showing it to somebody, and he immediately has some first impressions what this game should be. If it is a big game, I assume it has it lasts long. I also assume it has a lot of components. Maybe I will assume that there are miniatures inside. Maybe I will assume there is a lot of interaction because it looks like a war game and I will beat another opponent, so definitely we'll get some interactions inside of it. It might also appear that the big box will be connected with a kind of a fable inside, because I usually see big boxes of legacy games, etc., and so on and so on. Which means that when we create a game, we should understand first what the idea about the game people who will see the box will have. And then, after that, we are able to prepare ourselves. If our game will actually meet expectations, and if so, what makes that game better than other games on the market that has similar approach to the subject. And if the game is something completely new, something that is not referring to any other similar game, how can we avoid disappointing the customers and players who will buy a game thinking of something completely else, because we were so innovative that we actually brought something unexpected to the market. Is it a good thing? It depends. Not always innovative game is a good game, because it can also make a wrong style of surprise to the customers who decide to buy it. And the important thing that could help understand what we are dealing with is a mere exposure effect, first introduced by Robert Zions, and he found out that people who are facing the novelty, they are getting nervous. And each time they get in touch with it again, they are more calm and more positive about the thing that they are facing. And importantly, we can give an example of a song or a film. If we hear a song for the first time, we are basically not a positively approach to it. And after hearing it for the second, third, or fourth time, we're getting used to the style of the music. We are starting to accept the rhythm of it, the words of it, the pace of it. And after hearing it a couple of times in the restaurant, we would probably say to our colleagues, "Oh, I know that song, I actually like it." But you didn't at first time. You start to liking it because you heard it so many times earlier. And this is why pop song music are so popular, because people are hearing them a lot, and it not means that they are much better in any way than the songs we don't know from radio. It's because they are so pumped into the market that people are getting used to them, and everyone is starting to associate somehow with it. And I wanted to talk about Ark Nova a little bit. Is it a good game?
No.
Thank you.
I would rather say it is, but is it bringing something completely new to the market. Exactly. It's a mix of very popular games from mostly top 100 of Board Game Geek games, and the designer of the game literally confessed that he took some of other mechanisms from different games. A good thing that he mentioned the titles of those games, but anyway, he got a huge success with the game. And in my opinion, one of the things that made that game so successful was the associations that people had with things inside of this game. Because is any one of you play less than one of these 6 games? Yes, exactly. So if we know things from other games and then we play Ark Nova, find them inside, then we are already much more positively approached to it than before. So taking into example, there is a card playing, similar as in Terraforming Mars. Also the randomness helps you make long-term strategies, just like in Terraforming Mars. Then we have a civilization, a New Dawn, the mechanism that for a long time I thought was something innovative in Ark Nova, then I realized it is not, and this is the mechanism that the designer took and confirmed he took it. It's not a problem, like we make different connections from the games. Basically, I'm not saying it's something wrong to connect different types of the games. It's actually a way of creating a successful product. So this is what I'm telling to you. And like we have a ending trigger from Ganges, where score tracks are crossing each other, and then we have an end game. Brass Birmingham, so the way of earning money during the game. The Gallerist, exactly the same style of the board as it is in the main board of Ark Nova. And Wingspan is actually referring, in my opinion, as for the idea to have a cover with animals and with a style of it. And the colors of it, it should actually say to you that this game is referred with Wingspan at first, even though the illustration is made a different style, but it is part of a marketing tool. And to get your attention back a little bit, I have 2 questions, and you can raise your hand and guess. First is, which of this game is ranked at 25 position at Board Game Geek?
Brass.
I like your hand raised.
Wingspan, let's say.
Wingspan, that's the point. Okay, so you have the first one. That was a warm-up, didn't go very well, to be honest. And let's get to something more difficult. All these 7 games, we are including the Wingspan in here, have their rank on Board Game Geek, right? And if we take an average of it, there is one game which nearly exactly have the same rank.
Ark Nova?
That should be an answer.
Should be.
Galleries. It's Galleries.
No, it is not. I can give you a hint. Brass is at first position.
Terraforming.
No.
It's Ganges in that case.
Is Wingspan again?
Yeah, it's a Ganges. It's 137 position, I guess, and the average of this 7 is 134. So it's pretty close. And the civilization and New Dawn actually did it because it's 690. But anyway, let's go further. We have 2 already. The third one is easy, provides a set of benefits for the customer. It may sound completely obvious, but what I mean by this is mostly that a game can bring additional benefits to the customer the way we don't usually have in mind, and how it works. Let's take an example of a board game that is actually engaging. We like playing it, our children like playing it, but it also has a second goal. For example, it is a gateway for area control games. And in this case, you brought to the game, to the product, an additional benefit that makes a game easier to sell to the publisher. If you explain to him that this game is not only like a easy area control game, but it also makes a mechanic so simple that it can be introducing your children and smaller, or let's say new players to area control branch of board games, then it's a benefit that was not intentional, that's not the word, that is not usually a part of a game. It's something new, something that you added, some benefit that were not initially there. So, we have 3 stars already, and now we will make a double kill. So, it is a basic marketing instrument, and it is intended for sale. And as we already told, we want to sell it to the publishers also, not only to the customers. But how would you sell the game? And what are you going to tell the publisher while showing the game? These are the questions that I have an opinion not all of us asking ourselves, because when I hear some pitches to the publisher, well, it doesn't sound like a well thought plan from the start to the beginning. There is usually like description of what you have in front of you, and description of the process you got through, and description of ideas. Nobody cares about them, but you're already telling how you think the game could work in the future, but it still don't, but you can make it so. But the thing is, to make a next step, we need to understand a couple of things about the products. So, product is actually divided into 3 parts. It is a core product, actual product, and the extended product. And designers are responsible for core product and halfly about actual product. Because, as you know, we are somehow responsible for the features of the game, but are we actually responsible for the brand? Not really. Not as the designers who want to have a game published with the publisher. And the extended product is something that can be added only if you completely understand your product. If the publisher has rules of selling their games, then you all create, let's say, a consistent whole of a product. So understanding this is a requirement to get you to the point where you actually can only make a half of a way, but you can get to the publisher with a whole idea how to sell a game. Even though he is responsible for that, not you. But you're the one that can point him and make his job much easier. Instead of telling, hey, I have a game, tell him, I have a game, and I know how you are going to sell it. And how can you help yourself in selling the game? There is a couple of things you can do. First of all, you can emphasize with the publisher and also with the customers. We already talked about it. You should make a research. Get yourself a knowledge, get yourself numbers. These are the points most important. Then prepare. So the whole things you gather, they must become some consistent idea. If it is an idea, then prepare yourself to make some presentation. Put all the things you know in some particular order. Decide what is the most important for the publisher, and then take off the key selling points for it. What are the key selling points? Imagine yourself that you're just describing a game. And key selling points is something that allows you to take the publisher into an adventure with you. So you're not only telling him things, you're just now shooting like from a machine gun. So it's like the game is based on a very good intellectual property. Bang! The game is having a cover that is going to sell the game itself. Bang! The game has a mechanism that allows it not only to reach the target audience, but also reach some other markets, some other niches based on the easy to learn, hard to master style of a game. And so on and so on. And after having 3 to 5 of it, you're able to put very shortly and in a very direct method things that are the most important from your opinion to put the game somewhere on the market and to sell it. And if publisher wants something from you to understand it, these are going to be the key selling points. And what can increase the chances of your game? So for a moment, let's take off from the selling part of the job we have to do as designers and get to things when we design games. So first, of course the game should be engaging. It's kind of obvious. If they don't, why are you even a designer? And then they should be prepared for being on all purposes. It's not a good thing if your game has many restrictions when it can be played, in how many players it can be played, and that it requires 4 or 5 tables to be set up. And the game should also be convenient. So if we play a game that has completely uncomfortable to use components, then it's not a good thing. So try to make it as easy as possible to use. It should be consistent. So you have an idea, what kind of the game is it? And then you said, like, let's say it's area control, it's a very strategical game, but I want it in theme for children, and the rules, the explanation of the rules take 45 minutes to 1 hour, but I believe the targeting group is 4 to 8 years. Then you're not having a consistent product, because you're trying to reach something that is actually impossible. So try yourself to understand first how to make convenient, the consistent product, and then get yourself to do it. And it should also be economic. So if you make a game and try to put too much components into it, or searching for completely unprofitable solutions in case of manufacturing, then you're actually downsizing the chances of your game. And you do it to yourself. I've never heard publisher who said, okay, double the components and I take it. And the last thing I want to mention in here is compare. So I believe that not many of us do it, but if we create a game, we should actually compare it at different levels, different stages of advancement of our designing process, comparing it to other games that we believe are similar, and see in what size of the boxes are they fitting, what are usually the covers of these games, what are the targeting market of those games, what is the price for it, and then if you see so many stuff around that you can actually understand what to tell to the publisher to make him understand your product, because he don't know it at all. You actually have a couple of minutes usually to show the game, the rules, explain what do you see good in it, and if you want to understand what the product is, then comparisons are something very good, because you can say it's a product that lies between this title and this titles on the market, and he actually immediately see some opportunities to sell the game. So we have all 5, and this way we forged a ring one to rule them all, and by them all we mean all the publishers and customers, of course. And before we go, something for the beginning, to not leave you with all this information and stuff not summed up. We have to become an observer, and that's a first step to the whole logic. If you're not observing new products approaching the market, how they being promoted, how they're being launched to the market, if it is a crowdfunding or it is a retail sale, and then if it is already on the market, how people react to it, what are they writing on social media, how are they playing the game, what are they complaining about, because sometimes there is a very good game on the market that we don't actually pay attention to. There is a lot of complaints at some particular part of it, and we can learn a lot if we know it. If we read a lot of comments and see what people are complaining about, we can decide to make a next game searching for a solution for that problem. And then you are starting with actually a good point. And imagine what you would tell the potential customers to buy the game. And it is kind of marketing stuff, but it is very useful, in my opinion, to prepare yourself for discussion with the publisher. So if you create a game and then you want to search for a publisher, you need to convince him to your game, right? And how we convince people to sell a game? We usually see the promotion on social media, so we can learn ourselves to read the slogans, the things that are said in here, the first 3 sentences that are describing the game, and try to learn how to prepare your own slogans and main 3 sentences to describe your game, and then use it to prepare for the talk with the publisher. And of course the strategy. The strategy actually sums up most of things I mentioned today, so let's not get into it. But be honest with yourself and then with a publisher also, which means that if I believe I found an idea for the best product, but I know my game is actually not heading this direction, I shouldn't lie myself that it will. Let's just make a new product that is actually being this way of heading the market. And if we decide to lie ourselves and then go to a publisher, we both lose our time. You actually lost your and the publisher time. And don't show your games to the publisher, you should sell them to the publisher. And with this thought, I would like you to go and try Product Wise. thinking. Thank you.